Math 3, Unit 7, Section 4. Today we're talking about sideways parabolas. And at this point now, we're kind of skipped a few pages, but we're going to talk about how to get the equation using the point from the focus and the point from the directrix. So just like before, we're using the distance as c, so that could be any value. And we're going to plug it into our distance formula because the distance from the point to the focus should equal the distance from the point to the directrix. Okay, the point we're using is xy. So when we plug it in here, we end up with x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared, because this is x and y. Okay, over here we have x minus a negative c squared plus y minus y squared. Do we have any questions so far? Next, we're going to simplify. So we still have our square roots. We get x minus c squared plus, and here y minus 0 is what? Just y squared. Equals, over here, two negatives make a positive, and so we have x plus c squared, and then y minus y makes 0. How do I eliminate square roots? Very good. We square both sides. When I do that, I have x minus c squared plus y squared equals x plus c squared, and I don't need to write my 0. Whichever letters match, those are the ones we multiply out to combine like terms. So x minus c squared is a little confusing, and so I would probably write this one out to multiply it out. I'm going to go ahead and multiply it out up here. We have x minus c times x minus c. When you're multiplying, we can distribute, or you could use your box method if you want to. X times x makes what? X squared. X times negative c is negative cx. Good. Then we're going here to our inside. Negative c times x is negative cx, and then negative c times negative c makes a positive c squared. These are like terms in the middle, and so negative c and negative c, it's really negative 1c and negative 1c, which would make what? Negative 2c. So when I write this down, this is x squared minus 2cx plus c squared. And then I still have my plus y squared equals. Now, based on what I just did, x plus c, the difference here would that this would, both of these would be positives, and both of these would turn to positives. And so what would this multiply out to be?
X plus 2cx.
Good. Plus y squared, right? Okay. Wait. Sorry, it is c squared. What is wrong with me? Sorry, thank you. Okay, are there any like terms? Good, the c squareds, we can cancel those out, and the x squareds. And so I'm left with negative 2cx plus y squared equals positive 2cx. So we want to get all of our x's together. And what would I do? I'm going to add 2cx right now to both sides to combine them together. So that eliminates. We have y squared equals 4cx, because 2 plus 2 is 4. And I can't write. That's supposed to be an x. And then my last thing would be to do what? To get x by itself. Good. Divide by 4c. And so this equation is x equals the 4c, all that represents is a number, and so we'd pull it out in front, which would be 1 over 4c y squared. Does this seem similar to you from our y equals equation? Yes? Yeah? So remember that this 4c, it represents the width of the parabola at the focus. Remember that C is the distance from the vertex to the focus, And C is also the distance from the vertex to the directrix. So now we're going to use this information and work with some actual numbers. Okay, are you guys ready? All right. So starting with this first problem, it says graph the parabola x equals -1/8 y squared, and they want us to find and graph the focus, directrix, and focal chord endpoints. Again, here we forgot to put the vertex, so we're going to add vertex here. First of all, another thing is that because this is x equals, we know that it's going to curve along the x-axis, but we also need to pay attention to this sign right here. And if it's negative, which direction do you think the curve is going to go? To the left, because remember the x is going to curve with the x-axis, and so if it's negative, it's going to end up curving to the left. Just like if it was y equals a negative, it would curve down. All the negative values go to the left. Okay? Now, is there anything with the y here for our vertex? No. So that, though, with the y would be telling us the y value of the vertex. And then there's nothing being added at the end, and so 0 would also be the x of the vertex. So just remember that wherever parentheses and stuff are, whatever's with it, that's where that value goes in the vertex spot. Am I making sense? So had this been in parentheses and had a value with the y, that value would go in the y spot. Okay? So let's go ahead and put our point at 0, 0 for our vertex, and I might go ahead and label that with a V to remind myself. So next we want to find our focus and our directrix. Who remembers how we can do that? Haley? No?
Do 4c equals -8.
Very good. 4c equals -8 is correct. Okay, so what would I do now? Divide by 4 to both sides, and we get that c equals what? -2. So the focus is always inside your curve. Okay, and we know we're going to curve to the left, correct? Because of that negative. And so we are going to go left 2 right here, and that is your focus. And I put an F there to remind me that's my focus. Where do I go for my directrix? Right 2, good. And so this one, because it's x equals, it's going through the x-axis, and that right there is my directrix. How do you get those focal chord endpoints? So the whole distance needs to equal 8, or you can double your c value. So how far would we go each direction from the focus? 4. So we just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the other direction 4, and they always line up with your focus. These are the focal chord endpoints. And then you draw your curve. Once I have all my points on the graph, that's when I go over here and write the information. So what ordered pair is the focus at? Okay, and the directrix. Remember, that's a line. We would write that as what? Very good. And then what are the ordered pairs for our focal chord endpoints? Perfect. -2, 4, and -2, -4. Do we have any questions about where stuff came from on that problem? Okay. Are you guys ready for the next one? All right. Is this equation written the way that we want it to be? You are correct. So what can we do in order to make it the way we want it to be? Very good. Divide by 2 and get x by itself. So now my equation is x equals, and I'm going to pull out the number in front, and so we have 1/2 y squared. Based on that information right there, what is my vertex? 0, 0. I'm going to go ahead and plot my vertex at 0, 0 and write a V. Now I need to figure out how far to go for each of my distances. What will I do? Good. 4c equals 2. What would I do now? Divide by 4. And so c equals 2 over 4, which means what? 1/2 or 0.5. Is everybody good with that? Okay. And so what direction is this parabola going to be going? Very good. To the right, because it is positive. So in terms of my focus, where will I go? To the right, 1/2 or 0.5. So I'm going to put a point right here, and I'm going to label that with an F to remind me that that's the focus. Where will I go for the directrix? Good. 1/2 left. So there's my directrix. In order to get my focal chord endpoints, what do I do? Very good. So we know that the reciprocal of this is the whole distance. And so if the whole distance is 2, we know half of that would be 1. So from the focus, we go 1 in each direction. Or you can also, whatever your C value is that you end up getting, you can double that. So 1/2 times 2 would give you 1 as well. Okay? But this whole distance should equal the reciprocal of this number here in front. And so now I can draw my curve. And then we need to go back and give this information. So where is my focus at? 0.50 or 1/2 0? Where is my directrix? Very good. X equals negative 1/2 or x equals negative 0.5. Where are your focal chord endpoints at? Very good. 1/2, 1, and 1/2 negative 1. Any questions?
Why wouldn't it be y squared equals 2 over 1x?
Why isn't it y squared equals 2?
Why is it x equals 1/2 instead of 2 over 1?
Well, I'm not completely sure I understand what you're asking me, but this was the equation right here that they gave me. And so in order to get x by itself, you would divide by 2 to both sides. And then if there's no number in front of here, remember that's a 1. And so we just wrote it as x equals 1/2 y squared. So you can't just bring that 2 to the top.
I thought it was x squared.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, so that's the graphing part. And then the other part is that we need to be able to derive the formula by using the formal definition of a parabola. What is the formal definition of a parabola? That from the point to the focus, the distance from the point to the focus equals the same distance from the point to the directrix. Very good. And when we're doing our formula, we will always use what as our point? XY. Very good. So I'm going to write the point XY. And then they told us that the focus is what? 4, 0. Equals. What is my point going to be over here? xy again. And then we look at our directrix, and they tell us that x equals -4 for our directrix. So where do I put that -4? In the x spot. And then what do I put for the y spot? Y. Now, if we say from the point to the focus, it's the distance equal to the distance from the point to the directrix, how do I find the distance? The distance formula. And what is our distance formula? Okay, distance formula, it is what?
X2 minus X1
Good.
plus Y2 minus Y1 squared.
Yep, that's it. Perfect.
What else thought?
I know, seriously. Okay, so that's your distance formula. And remember, it doesn't matter the order of our x's and y's as long as we start, if we start with one, we keep starting with that one. And when we're doing these formulas, it's easiest to start with the first point, your xy, okay? So we are going to write the square root. The first parenthesis, we subtract the x's. So in this case, it's going to be what? X minus 4. X minus 4 squared plus, what's going to be at the y's? Y minus 0 squared. Very good. Equals, we have a square root on the other side. It's going to be what? Very good. X minus -4 squared plus y minus y squared. Nice. Next, we simplify. So my line will be x minus 4 squared plus y minus 0 is y squared equals, two negatives here end up making a, so x plus 4 squared, and then plus y minus y makes a 0 squared. If you want to write the 0, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay. How do I eliminate roots? We square both sides. Very good. So I end up with x minus 4 squared plus y squared equals x plus 4 squared. Which two will I multiply out? The x's, good. Okay, so whichever parentheses match, you multiply those out so we can combine like terms. When you multiply out x minus 4 squared, what does it equal? Perfect. Plus y squared equals, what does x plus 4 squared multiply out to be? Perfect. Are there any like terms I can cancel out? X squareds? 16s. Okay, and so I have -8x plus y squared equals 8x. What will I do next? Very good. Add 8x to both sides. We have y squared equals 16x, and the last step would be to do what? Very good. And so x equals?
1/16 y squared.
Perfect. X equals 1/16 y squared, and now you will have your equation. Any questions?